Welcome, everyone, to Here We Go Cleveland. It's another edition, week 7 now. It's kind of losing track of the weeks as the Browns drag along on this season. I'm your host, Bill Hebel. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Michael Zappa.
What's up?
So before we get into this week, we do want to say, as Cavs fans, we were both watching the game last night, and we just want to say our thoughts and prayers are out to Gordon Hayward. Obviously, you never want to see those injuries are very rare, but you never want to see that happen to a player. I mean, anytime, but gosh, not even 6 minutes into his first season with the Celtics last night.
Yeah, I mean, what a great player and just a great face for the NBA. So it would hurt to see anyone have that type of injury so early in the season, especially, obviously there's a bit of a rivalry there between the Cavs and the Celtics, but they were there to the point now where I think they finally have the pieces put together to maybe give the Cavaliers a run. So you don't want to see that, but Bill, don't try to fool our listeners. Last night, Bill, being in savage mode, tried to make it about Kyrie about 30 seconds after the injury happened. So don't let him fool you. He must be a full moon this week because he was number one hater.
Hey,
anyway,
not as bad as Skip Bayless saying that LeBron LeBron has an easier track to the. I was saying haha, joke's on you, kind of Kyrie that you got in that situation, which is still bad.
Shitty.
Still shitty.
Still shitty.
I feel bad that I said that, but
yeah.
I mean, Skip Bayless, when you have that big of a platform, you don't.
Right.
I can say that right now with my 12 listeners. But
what are you talking about, Bill? If we're talking platform, I don't know who's is bigger, this podcast or Skip Bayless. I mean, it would be comparable. So
I think, yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, I hear "Here We Go Cleveland" mumbled out of more people's mouths than his first down or whatever. What is it? What show is he on now? Uninterrupted.
Uninterrupted, the worst show ever.
Yeah. What is that?
The worst show ever. Yeah. But anyway, conscience cleared. I think the juju is back in your favor, Bill. Now that you've got that off your chest,
I think so.
So I just didn't want to let our listeners be fooled. But
I know.
But anyway, do you want to get into the game a little bit?
Yeah. Let's go for it.
Okay. I mean, early takeaways for me. I'll just get them out there. I think it's going to be an adjustment period because the last 3 years, the Cavs have had so much personality. Between the additions of guys like Kevin Love, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson, playing a pretty large role in the rotation. They've had, obviously the road trip and podcast themselves. There's just been a lot of big personality, and I think it's going to take some time. So with that personality, I guess what I'm saying is they were really enjoyable to watch on the court as well, kind of knowing how they interacted off the court, right? So there was a really good dynamic in a team dynamic between all the players, whereas, it's only game one, but, it seemed spotty to me. It didn't seem like there was a nice flow, but, spotty, I think, will win you a lot of games when you have the talent that we've added. So my early takeaway was, wow, we look deeper. I think our offense needs to it will eventually flow a little better because it just seems like there's really no system in place, but I think that will come together. But I don't know, what were your thoughts?
I mean, I think that it's definitely going to take some time to adjust because Thompson's not in a starting role anymore. JR isn't in a starting role anymore, and that's like you said, with depth, that is a scary second unit with JR coming in, just kind of going back to what he did in New York, was able to attack, create, and then Thompson out there too, being able to defend and get boards and stuff like that in the second unit. I think looking at last night, I think JR played 22 minutes and Dwayne Wade played 29 minutes. I don't necessarily see Dwayne Wade starting over JR as a huge thing because those minutes they're basically gonna play the same amount of minutes by the end of the year
right.
with Wade's age. I don't know. Everyone looked. It was shaky, like you said, but everyone looked good. I mean, Derrick Rose was about as good as a facilitator as Kyrie used to be, which was like he had 2 assists, so that's
Derrick
about
Rose,
average on Kyrie.
Derrick Rose is the one guy on the team that really concerns me, honestly.
Concerns you? Okay.
Yeah, he concerns me because of a couple things. First of all, I think he's going to have trouble knowing staying in his lane and knowing his role because he's so focused on getting paid, right? Like
right.
he took the league minimum to play with the Cavs to have a shot at the championship, but maybe even more importantly, realizing that if he makes it a deep playoff run and has a good stat line, that he'll reestablish his market value.
Right, and he's still a pretty young guy.
Yeah, but the difference in that in the players that we've added to the team over the last 3 years are guys like I mentioned earlier. They understood that it's not about market value. It's about winning a championship. And I get this feeling from things that I've heard in the media that Derrick Rose says that he is more focused on reestablishing that value. And in order to do that, obviously he's got to put up good numbers. And there was just a couple times during the game last night that I was like, what the fuck are you doing, Derrick Rose? Like, whether it be shooting the 3-pointer or like just throwing up a wild shot and if turnovers happen. But I was just like, come on, dude. Like you don't need to be doing that right now.
Yeah. And maybe I've never, obviously we don't play in the NBA, but maybe that's the mindset of someone who has come back from several injuries. I always have to prove that my game hasn't really changed, or I can. He always thinks that he has to prove that he can get back to that like MVP or close to that level of a player that he once was. I think that mindset definitely plays into sometimes like how he acts on the floor. And I think, LeBron will put his hand around his neck and get him right if things go hairy.
And the dude never smiles. What's up with that? I've never seen Derrick Rose smile. It's
maybe that was one of the many surgeries he had was to relax his face muscles. And
maybe that's why he is so off-putting because to me, there's something at the end of the day, the NBA, the NFL, it's all entertainment, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're watching it on TV. We're paying to see it in the stadiums and arenas. It's entertainment. So maybe that was one of the things that I was just like, that I loved about these past Cavaliers teams is they looked, whether they were on a 5-game losing streak or 5-game winning streak, for the most part, it looked like they were always having fun.
Right.
And Derrick Rose just looks like and there's nothing wrong with being focused, but it's like, I think that a team that has that off the court dynamic put together will develop it on the court. And I was just like, dude, it starts with smiling, man.
Yeah,
just enjoy yourself.
It's not like he's robot Russell Westbrook. He's not that hyper super focused. I don't know. He's just, I don't know. Sometimes guys just don't smile. And I think it'll take time for this team to really gel. Because if you look back at the year that we won the championship, it honestly took until we got RJ and Channing and those guys in the locker room to build that presence. So I don't know.
Did you see the report that came out that said David Griffin wanted to trade RJ last year right after they won the championship because he revealed the Cavs rings on Snapchat?
Oh my gosh!
Before they were allowed, so he had a trade set up as punishment, basically, to get rid of RJ.
Wow.
So it's not surprising now that RJ got traded. It's sad to see him go because, like I said, such a good locker room presence. But he's those guys. I think for all the players and all the fans that followed him closely these 2 years that RJ, or I guess only a year and a half that RJ and Channing have been around.
Yeah.
I think 2 years for RJ, a year and a half for Channing. I think that they'll always kind of remember that they were so, maybe not in the game, but they were so important to that team in that locker room. But that we may never know how truly important they were. But
right. The only thing that matters to me is that road tripping continues, whether it's just RJ or they record separately and still gets uploaded. That's the most important thing, is that doesn't get, because that's great for the NBA to have that show of like unadulterated like looks into players' lives and things of that sort.
Yeah. Shout out Allie Clifton. Shout out Real Channing Frye.
Yeah.
Shout out RJ. If you guys ever want to do a joint podcast, we humbly accept your invitation. Love to do it. So
that would be great.
But yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to do a true Cavs preview now that we've just kind of got into the season. But I just want to outline a few of my exciting players.
We have here and there.
We have 8 new players, which is crazy for a team that won the East last year. Jeez. So I'm pumped about 2 players, Jay Crowder and Jeff Green, because I'm focused on that team out west that I think everyone's been focused on. Yep. And to me, in previous years, we've had one defender that can guard their big 4, and that's LeBron James, and guard them well. And now I think we have 3 and maybe 3.5 if you consider if JR decides to be a good defender. I think Jeff Green is like 6'7", 6'8", so he can hang with them, and he's super athletic. I think he's like the dark horse of the acquisitions.
I think so.
And Jay Crowder, man, he loved his intensity. I hated him when he was with Boston. I hated him. But now that he's on our side, you gotta love the guy. And I think those 3 can probably defend just about any trio and defend them well in the NBA, which I'm really excited about.
Right. Although that team out west has Durant, Klay Thompson, and Green, which arguably is a younger, better defensive trio than those 3. I'm just putting it out there.
I was super hyped up about those.
Oh wait, is this a Cleveland podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe you should look who's on the front of your shirt sometime.
Here's a hot take. Jay Crowder.
Here we go. Love your hot takes.
I hate when he takes threes.
Why?
He is not as good. And one day his confidence is going to get to him, and he's only like a career like 33% three-point shooter. One day it's going to catch up to him. That's my hot take about the Cavs, is that they lost a lot of good three-point shooting. Because like Dwayne Wade doesn't have that great of a three-point shot. Jeff Green has never been consistent with a 3. Derrick Rose doesn't have a good three-point shot. These guys that we're going to count on in the clutch during the playoffs for LeBron to drive. He is god
awful.
Yeah, jeez.
But I don't think he's going to have. I don't think he's going to have that pressure when we get later in the season.
Should be Isaiah. Isaiah. Hopefully,
But if you think about it, here's my take. When we won the finals, we won because we were a different team than the Warriors were.
Right.
It's not because we tried, and then all of a sudden we tried to build this team that could shoot it and score with the Warriors.
Could be the Warriors, yeah.
Yeah, like you add Kyle Korver, Channing Frye. Love Channing Frye, but he's a three-point specialist. J.R. Smith, we tried to play a style of basketball and that we wanted to be able to score with the Warriors, but I don't think that's how you beat them. I think you beat them with like stout defense, and you need to get into a game that's going to be low 90s, not in the 120s, because I still don't think that. I don't think we have the scoring on our team if we get into a shootout with the Warriors that we'd be able to hang. I think it would have to be a physical game where you slow down the pace and play your brand. And I think that's why this past finals was so difficult, is because we tried to play fast, throw up a bunch of shots, no one was hitting, and then the Warriors were hitting, and then before you knew it, we were down 12, 15 points.
Right, and it's so hard to claw back against them, especially in the finals. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a good season. I think it's going to be a good season. I don't want to make any picks this episode. Let's save our picks and maybe some predictions. Maybe get a little more in depth with the Cavs as the season folds out, but we'll save our predictions for another podcast.
Well, after your hot take this past week was so accurate on Kevin Hogan, I've written down your Jay Crowder hot take. So perfect. hopefully you're about as accurate with that one as
I'll start
the
taking
Kevin Hogan
shots
bandwagon
for every 3 that he makes during the season.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. With that, I guess, do you want to transition into a little bit of Browns talk?
Yeah. Well, I want to transition that with the basketball question. So I wrote this down earlier in the week. Now that Kyrie has returned, or made his first return to Cleveland, who do you think had the better reception coming back to Cleveland this week? Was it Hugh Jackson on Sunday night, or Kyrie on Tuesday?
Well, who would have seen Hugh Jackson come back on Sunday night?
I guess it was just the overall hate that he could feel from the Cleveland fan base. I mean, is Cleveland already tired of him enough that it was like, oh, Kyrie, like he's fresh to hate on?
I think Kyrie probably would have got more like verbal hate.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of pent up aggression on the Cleveland fan base towards Hugh Jackson, but he wouldn't have felt any of it.
Yeah.
Because if he chooses, he doesn't really have to hear it. Whereas Kyrie obviously had boos at his intro and when he got the ball, but then the unfortunate injury to Gordon Hayward, I think that sucked out some of the negativity of the fans, which I'm glad it did, because if the fans would have just hammered on Kyrie after that, then that's kind of.
I heard like when LeBron. I mean, obviously LeBron was he had spent much more of his career, and he was much more of a pivotal player because of how bad Cleveland was around him when he was here. But when he came back from the Heat, they were the fans were throwing batteries at him. They had to get security guards all around. So it was much less hyped up than when LeBron came back.
Yeah. Well, and it's a different set of circumstances too, right? Like, I mean, in a way, and it's going to be hard to accept this because I'm obviously still a big Kyrie fan, and I saw a video. I mean, I think he's still a pretty classy guy, despite last week's comments about Cleveland being a shitty Midwest city. Which
and that may have been someone asking him in the media pushing him like, "Well, how do you like Boston now that you're here?" And he just happened to compare it to Cleveland. So yeah.
So despite all that, I think he's an intelligent guy, and I think he
believes the Earth is flat, but we can let that go.
He aims to be intelligent, aims to be classy. And yesterday I saw him, giving LeBron's kids a hug on the way out of the stadium. So, I mean, that's just kind of cool to see. And honestly, during the game a little bit, I missed Kyrie. I did. Seeing some of the things he did for Boston, it's like, damn, I missed watching him do that. But, in a way, he kind of did us a favor, because he could have left in 2 years for nothing.
Right.
Or he could have given us a shot at a title this year, and if we win a title, I think LeBron comes back, right? So,
right.
So I guess time will tell.
Yeah.
But the short answer, even though I expanded a little bit too far, the short answer to your question is, I think Kyrie probably felt more hate, but that'll change. That'll change with every week, right?
Yeah, that will.
Every single week.
Oh man, Hugh Jackson is starting to. He's made my naughty list. I'm not getting him a Christmas present this year. I am.
Yeah.
He's not even close to it. I can spend any money on him.
So, with that, then getting into the Cleveland Browns in Week 7 of the season. So let me just start, Bill. This was
you want to ask me who I'm pumped about this week?
No. For those of you who didn't get a chance to listen in Week 6, Bill could have been quite possibly the only person. I
had to change my pants.
The only person of the Cleveland fan base that was pumped to see Kevin Hogan. We have a group message with a bunch of Cleveland fans, and when Kevin Hogan was named, and nothing against Kevin Hogan, but he was a 5th-round draft pick, cut by the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, no one was excited about him except for your William Hebel. And so his take was that he was going to come out and surprise a lot of people and do a lot of great things. And on that, he had 4 turnovers.
He did the same thing that seems like the other Browns quarterbacks have done, turn in a terrible stat line.
Yeah, and I mean, to his defense, I think, the plays could have been called a little better. But I was talking to you during the game. One thing that, I don't know a whole lot about football, but one thing I noticed was just the effort that it looks like it takes him to throw the ball, as opposed, maybe I take it for granted seeing like even DeShone Kizer. I mean, he may be inaccurate, but he can fucking whip the ball around.
Right. He just seems like on a rope. He draws back and like flicks his wrist and boom, 20 yards. Where Hogan is like shot putting, like acting like he's
wind up, 3-second wind up, cock his head back and let her rip. And it's like, wow.
Maybe that's why his throws are so high, is because when his neck is back and he's looking at the throws, he lets it off at a little different angle.
Yeah. So I think Hugh probably could have done a better job with play calling, no doubt. But I think bottom line, you have to ride out DeShone for the rest of the season and see what you have. Like, that's the only way you're going to know what to do going into the draft. Yeah. So
but let me read you this quote from the great and wise Huford. I don't know if Hugh is short for Huford, but we'll go with it. Huford Jackson, coach of the Cleveland Browns. This is what he said about Kevin Hogan and some of his missed opportunities and throws. He missed some throws, missed some opportunities, and that's what happens. He said that all those missed throws, that's just what happens to NFL quarterbacks. It's like, what are you even talking about? That's what like all those interceptions. That's what happens.
Yeah. Well, Hugh Jackson is probably running out of like cliche.
Yeah. His Google
like bailout
translate is here's what he does. He takes the same quotes from week 1 and then puts it into Google Translate and just Spanish to English back and forth a bunch of times until he gets like different verbiage that he can use.
Yeah, because he has, the jury for me is still out on Hugh Jackson. I think that the Haslam group, the front office, have this plan that they're going to stick to.
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackson doesn't really believe either in the plan or believe that they're going to see it through.
Yeah. I mean,
so I think he feels more more pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he ultimately is the one. Sashi Brown and Dee Podesta aren't fucking rolling out there every week to have to talk to the media.
Right.
So I think he feels more pressure. And so I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about, the past week since we started the pod, I've always used the phrase, eternal optimist. Like as a Cleveland fan, you have to eternally, forever be optimistic about the direction, or else it's even more depressing about where you're at. So, well, I'm kind of over that. I really am.
My scale of optimism is just it's bad.
Overall, I'm still optimistic, but for this season, like I'm done with trying to shed light on how I think we can win 6 games, because I don't think we can. I don't think we can win 4 games.
No.
I think if at this point, if we win 3 games, it's going to be a success. But that's for this season. I still do think that if Haslam, if the front office, and if Hugh truly can stick it out, that there's something being built here. Because I read an article this week, and I forget who it was by, Douglas Marie, maybe?
Yeah.
And the foundation that's being built, And it's always, it's always easy to point to players we could have had. But I'm telling you, Bill, without doubt, if we would have drafted Deshaun Watson with the team we have today, you could have flipped the script. There's not a doubt in my mind that he would be having the same struggles that DeShone Kizer's having, because we don't have a stud defense. Now their defense isn't as good since injuries, but we don't have. I mean, their worst receiver is as good as our best receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, I think their running game's a bit better. Like, there's just so many things that may he be doing a little bit better than Kizer. Sure. I think he has a little bit more between the ears than Kizer's shown to this point. But to go back and be like, you could have had this player, this player, this player, that's so easy to do. Like,
I know. I wrote down that we weren't going to discuss this too much in the pod because it'd literally be beating a dead horse with, I don't know, a more dead horse. But, gosh, like, the Browns just don't have... See, all these other teams have a good, like, fallback or average defense or offense that they can fall back on. So they can draft a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. But the Browns don't have that player base that they can fall back on. And Mike Lombardi has been pissing me off the past few weeks because literally every time I hear a quote from him, every week he brings up, well, look at how good Deshaun Watson's doing. The Browns could have had him. Look at how good Carson Wentz is doing. Carson Wentz was a bad... That was tough. That's tough to swallow Deshaun Watson, I don't think Carson Wentz is a much better quarterback than Deshaun Watson is, and I don't think Deshaun Watson would have really changed. And I want to throw this out for you. I was listening to some Browns radio, and they were talking about Ray Farmer, and when he was the GM of the Browns, his goal and his plan was to build a team that could win no matter who was in the quarterback role. And he didn't really figure out that goal in time before he was fired, but I think that's still where the Browns are now. They're still trying. That's why they didn't take Watson or Trubisky or one of these guys, because they're still trying to really build a team that can, win but with a average to, not a top tier quarterback.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. First of all, shout out to my guy, Mike Lombardi, because he is my roommate from Philly's uncle.
Wow.
So stayed in his house one time. So
Did you really?
Nothing but love to Mike Lombardi.
I love Mike Lombardi. I just can't believe he's brought that up for 6 straight weeks.
He has more hate for him, and his family have more hate for Cleveland than maybe anyone I've ever met, because the Haslams looked him in the eye and were like, we're going to build something great here. And then 18 months later, they were like, get the fuck out of Cleveland.
Right.
So that's such is life, I guess. But anyway, that's an interesting take because it's a good point. Like, I don't know if they're trying to build a team where the quarterback can be interchangeable, or understanding the struggles they've had prior to their involvement. They're saying, we want to build something that a rookie quarterback or a new quarterback can come in and like have a chance to succeed, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to say, because have rookie quarterbacks that have seen success like a Carson Wentz, have they had a better team than the Browns have now? I don't know. That's like such a tough. Probably, if I had to guess, I would say probably. Yeah. But then all the variables that are spinning around like get that much more complex. If you're like, okay, do the Browns today have more talent than the Eagles of Carson Wentz rookie year? And if Carson Wentz was on the Browns team of last year, do you really think he would have had the success he did with the Eagles? I mean, I don't really.
Right.
So anyway, I just think my overall opinion is, at this point, we're so deep in it we got to give it one more year. So this season is going to be tough, just like last season was. So. But, you know, I just think we have to see it out. We have five first 2-round picks next year, so that could be 5 game-changing starters. But
right, that's a great point about 5 game-changing starters. I wrote this down in some notes thinking this past week. I'm fine with this season playing through as it is, but the 2017 draft, the last draft we just had, it has to be the last draft that the Browns continually trade back their picks for more future picks. It's time to get great players while we have these top draft picks. It doesn't matter if, oh my gosh, we can get like the Atlanta draft. Like, yeah, that worked out for us a little bit, but like we could have had Julio Jones. Like, we gotta stop drafting back all these times. We're not the Patriots. We don't do this regularly where we draft back and then like we got to stay in the top and grab this top talent while we have these picks.
Yeah, I mean, with our picks next year, we realistically could have the best quarterback in the draft. We could have the best wide receiver in the draft.
Yeah.
And we could potentially have the best running back in the draft if we really wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, because, you know, you can package – we have 3 second-round picks. You could go quarterback number 1, depending on where the Texans are, probably top 15. I'd put them middle of the pack.
Yeah.
You know, you could have that pick for a wide receiver, and then you could package a few of those second-rounders and come up and get a running back. I would love – actually, I'm going to stop right there.
Okay.
It's premature to get too invested in the draft season.
Right.
It's week 6 or it's week 7. So
yeah. I mean, look at it. Yeah, you could go up there. You know, you'd take first round. You know, I don't know. You could throw a second rounder for Garoppolo and not take a quarterback.
Yeah,
you move some things around, but I just don't. I don't care if they make those trades. You know, some direct player trades. But I just can't see them, you know, oh, here's the Browns trading the first overall pick to the San Diego Chargers for, you know, or the Los Angeles Chargers, for like their 2019 first round pick. This is the year that the Browns have to use their picks where they're at.
Right. I agree 100%. So anyway, as far as, you know, that's big picture. I think in game, the thing that is the most frustrating for me is that it seems like, again, and we've had this conversation before, that it's like the light bulb doesn't click that you suck until the third quarter. And then it's like, shit, we should probably put some points on the board.
Oh yeah.
It's like, what the fuck were you doing the first 2 quarters?
Yeah.
Like, how did we get down by 30 points before you're like, and I think that's as much on the coaching as it is the players.
Right.
Like, there's just so many absurd facts about each game. Like, you know, 2 games ago, Kevin Hogan had 3 passes to Njoku for 48 yards and a touchdown.
Right.
And this week he was targeted like twice for 7 yards.
Yeah.
I'm like, if there's a connection there, it's like on the job. It's the job of the coaches to be like, look, we need to exploit this weakness on another team.
Right.
And I know it's not always going to be there, but there's so many things like that just don't make any sense whatsoever. And you're like, what is going on?
I know. It's bad. I don't know. I don't know. It's partly as the play calling, partly as mentality. Like, we need to come up like fired up, like out fired up. Like, it doesn't seem like the offense is really like ready to go. And then there's always a freaking penalty on whatever play. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm sure we're near the top of the league in penalties and yard, because it's always a, you know, Duke Johnson 22-yard run brought back by a holding call. And it's all
my dude Kason Williams, who I'm super pumped about.
Yeah.
Literally every time he has a catch over 12 yards, there's a penalty. And it's a penalty that's like not offensive holding, like, you know, standard passing penalty. It's something like offensive pass interference on a receiver on the other side of the field,
right.
or it's like illegal formation, or
like
something like that.
Down
And
the
it's just
field or some bullshit.
Yeah, the last 2 games he's had like a 25, 30-yard really great throw and catch, only to be negated by a penalty. It's like so frustrating, but
gosh.
But yeah, the other thing is, I wonder, I think Hugh has a pretty big ego. So I think offensive coordinator would do the organization a world of good, because I think then Hugh could focus on a couple things. He could focus on, the players as a whole, as opposed to focusing, not that I think he should take any time away from Kizer, but he could focus on like big picture, the team as a whole. And he doesn't have to focus on play calling as much, because I really think the play calling is not set up.
How many times were we talking during the game on Sunday where it's 3rd and 2, and maybe it's just the reads that the quarterbacks had, that Hogan had, but 3rd and 2, they're chucking it 25, 30 yards down the field. There was never a run or an attempt to run on the 3rd and 2. It's like, gosh, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's a great point. Like, we are arguably we're the worst team in the NFL. It's not even an argument at this point, I don't think. And we have the worst passing game in the NFL, but yet we have the most pass attempts per game. So riddle me that.
Yeah. I don't know.
How do you figure that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. The amount of touches that Duke Johnson doesn't get, the amount of times we pass as opposed to run, the play call on 3rd and 2. And, for the season, we are definitely averaging like I would say we're averaging over 3.4, 3.5 yards a carry. So like the law of averages tell you run the ball. Like statistics tell you to run the ball. So this analytics team, like, is it not filtering down to Hugh?
When you look at the line stats for plays that are for 3rd and 4th down that are shorter than that are 3rd and 2, the Browns have the 2nd or 3rd best offensive line in the NFL in making a first down on those 3rd and 2 and 4th and short plays. So it's we have one of the best lines in the NFL. Use those guys to just push through and get a damn first down.
Yeah. Hugh, if you're listening, don't get cute. Yeah. Don't get cute. Just do what you do and play football. Don't have 4 guys in the slot that need to motion over to the other side of the ball and get set before Kizer runs a 3-read option and has 2 reads on his pass. Just run basic plays and help Kizer out, because it seems like that was the other thing. Watching the game on Sunday with Deshaun Watson, it seemed like, I don't want to take anything away from him because I think he has a lot of talent. I like him a lot, but it seemed like all of his success came off quick reads, 2-step drops and bang, throw the ball. And it's gonna be a laser, but you got to catch it, or rollouts. That's the thing that I've heard for all the time I've been watching football, that if you have a young quarterback who's mobile, roll him out one way or the other, because then he gets out from behind. And I haven't seen Kizer do that one time.
No, maybe scrambling, but
yeah. And it's what are you trying? Stop trying to make Kizer into something he isn't yet.
Right.
Maybe he'll get there and be able to stand in the pocket because he has the stature and stuff. But it's at this point, his advantage are his legs.
Right.
Use them, not in the option, but on play action rollouts and stuff like that. It's just I don't think Hugh is doing Kizer any favors, and I don't think he did Hogan any favors this past week.
No, not that Kizer has the same hype or is the same I don't think level of athlete that these quarterbacks were, but look at what Seattle did that exactly with Russell Wilson when they first drafted him.
Great point.
Cam Newton, he ran some more option things, but he rolled out, and Carolina simplified their offense so much for Cam Newton just to make a couple reads on each play that he can make simple, quick decisions and build some confidence and like get a drive going. And that's what just really needs to happen is for Deshaun to build some confidence with some quick. No one cares if your play call is simple. Like, as long as it's building confidence and you're moving the ball, no one cares that you're not running these like John Gruden paragraph long plays.
Well, and you think any Browns fan would give a shit if we run the ball 40 times and Kizer passes, he goes 11 for 17 with 120 yards?
No.
You think anyone would give a shit? Because no. Because if we won the game, that's all that matters. Or if we kept it close. Like, I don't think you're going to hear an argument from Browns fans if we lose a close one, but we manage the turnovers because Kaiser's not taking as many risks and we're not putting so much pressure on him. We run the ball for, 3 yards, a 3-yard average in 40 times. The Bears, everyone was so high on Mitchell Trubisky. Well, I think it says a lot about the coach's confidence in him and that's okay as a rookie. They ran it, I think, like 54 times this past week.
Yeah.
Like their starting running back, I think, had 36 carries. And Mitchell Trubisky had 117 yards in the air and 1 interception. But guess what? They won the game.
Yeah.
And like,
why do we have 2 running backs? Like, to share those carries so like one guy doesn't get too worked out. I don't know. Yeah.
So it's just like, Nothing makes sense to me whatsoever. It really doesn't. So, I mean, this week in the game, I just want to see a game plan that makes there's some logic behind it. Like, I just feel like the coaching staff is trying to be something it's not, and that it doesn't have the talent to be like on the field. And I just want to see a game plan that makes sense. And, the Titans aren't unbeatable. But, I mean, when you're playing the Browns, everyone seems – or when you are the Browns, everyone seems unbeatable. But I would love to see a game plan that plays to our strengths, that doesn't have everyone scratching their head for 4 quarters.
Right. I think – I made this exact point. I think it was last week. Maybe it was the week before. But what I want to see most in this game, and it's so simple, but the Browns just have to control. The Browns need to learn that they can only do what they control, and they just need to, like I said, they need to make the Titans beat them. Maybe the Titans whoop our ass. But they need to make the Titans beat them with like less penalties, less turnovers. We haven't really fumbled the ball that much, which is great. But
we only run it 8 times a game.
Well,
so
yeah, that's true. But
when you're throwing it 65 times a game and running it 8, chances are you're going to have more interceptions than fumbles.
Exactly. I want to give you this. I'm going to read a couple quotes here. This is from Kizer, and it really talks about points that we've talked about before. But he says, I'm trying to make sure that we can do whatever we can to make sure we are realizing those things that are stopping us from being 3-3 rather than 0-6 and focusing on it. Talking about, obviously, it's turnovers in the red zone and lulls at the beginning of games. So he realizes that completely, that we need to come out at the start of games and not even necessarily, put points on the board, but at least don't get behind by 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, and that rolls into you're down by 20 points at halftime or whatever. And his, we were talking. I texted you earlier that I had an interesting turnover stat for you. I want to segue what Kizer said about turnovers in the red zone. So I looked up, and it's very interesting that he said stopping us from being 3-3 rather than 0-6. I'm wondering if someone gave him these stats. But if you look at, so I went back and looked at all the points that opponents scored on concurrent drives after a Browns turnover. if you look back at the game, Steelers didn't score any points off of a turnover. Ravens scored 14 points. That ties us with them because they wouldn't. That puts it at 10-10.
How much did we lose that game by?
We lost by 14.
Okay.
We gave up 14 points off turnovers. Colts lost by 3, gave up 3 points off turnovers. Bengals, we only gave up 7 points, so that game's out of there. Jets, we gave up 7 points off turnovers. We win that game. Texans, we only gave up, or they only scored 6 points. So if you look at that, that is a 3-3 season if we don't turn the ball over and let them score off of turnovers. So that's how close. I mean, 9 interceptions or however many. We've had like 15 teams so far.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of interceptions. But you cut off those ones that kill teams and put points on the board for the other team. And we're 3-3.
Yeah. And that's maybe what another, frustrating part about the season has been is, we go into every game optimistically, right? And in that game, even against the Texans, like they have that bomb to Will Fuller to go up 10-3, but we put points on the board first, which is a huge win.
Yeah.
Right? Like we put a little drive together, we put some points on the board. Now to me, and maybe you feel differently, but the second that pick six was thrown, I knew the game was over.
Oh yeah.
Because that was a 14-point swing. It went from us tying it up because we were driving, or at least making it 6-10 because I think we were already in. We were already in field goal range. Yeah. And because it was an 82-yard pick six, so we were already in field goal range. So that things like that for a young team, I think momentum for a young team, I think is so underrated, right? Like if the defense can get stops, which they've been doing okay.
Yeah,
they've been okay. Like momentum, I just think we can't have those momentum killing turnovers.
No,
and that's why. The other thing is, I just kind of think that last week was a wasted week of Kaiser's development, unless anyone truly believes Hugh Jackson's bullshit about seeing the game from a different angle. I mean maybe
you look at the bullshit that Kaiser's spitting out now, that he learned a lot apparently from that game. But yeah, I think it's some giant media spectacle.
Yeah, maybe he's right. I mean, maybe he claims that between each drive, he was having a chat with Kaiser, and maybe there is some like, hey, just take a breather. You're young. The kid's 21 years old. He's playing in NFL on a talent-stricken offense with hardly any receivers to throw to. So maybe it truly was. I hope deep down that's what it was. Is that Hugh really believes in Kaiser and just wanted him to get a break. But I think it was more Hugh hoping he could get a win out of the deal.
Right, because if you
it was both.
If you think it like I don't know, because I know at halftime, I was pumped for I say that lightly now. I was pumped for Hogan, but.
No, you were over the moon, excited, like you were ready to go out and buy his jersey. You were so pumped last week, and I was like, "What is this kid's deal? Is he watching the same Hogan that I've watched?"
The trials and tribulations of a Browns fan. Anyways,
but eternal optimist, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean that pick six play, I mean that deflated all the pump that I had in me for Kevin Hogan. And I was calling, I think most of our friends were calling for Kaiser to come back at halftime. And like, I don't know if Hugh thought that he still had a better chance to win with Hogan in there or not, but like.
Well, I will say at the time I wanted Kaiser back in, but now hindsight, I agree that give him the full day off. If he truly believes that this was to give Kaiser a breather because he might have been overwhelmed by obviously he's been overwhelmed by the NFL game.
Right.
Like I think that that strengthens his stance that he says, he just wanted Kizer to see the game from a different angle. Like that, the fact that he didn't put him back in after Hogan had 3 interceptions and a safety just tells you that he was committed to Kizer kind of getting a breather. So, yeah. So anyway, I just, hopefully we'll see some different results this week.
We'll see. I don't know. Mariota's back for the Titans. They've got some weapons.
He was back last night, or he was back Monday night, but
right.
He was kind of like didn't have full mobility.
Yeah,
Love Mariota.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players to watch, young players to watch. So, obviously in the last, I don't know how long, 20 minutes, we've only talked about Kizer and Hogan. So let's move on to our I don't know. I self-named it our Players Club, but let's get into some players to watch this week that we have. I'm definitely pumped. I'm reverse pumped that I'm not watching Kevin Hogan start anymore. So I've already flipped the switch, which I guess I'm allowed to do.
Yeah. We'll let you have that one, Bill. I'll go with. I mean, there's a few, but let's just rotate. I think my number one is obviously DeShone Kizer. I'm a big fan of his, as you know, since early on in the season. But the last few weeks I've been saying, give me 250 yards and a couple TDs.
Mm-hmm.
This week I'm saying, give me a 60% completion percentage.
Yeah.
And give me 150 yards and give me 1 turnover. That's what I'm saying this week.
Yeah, it's like give me 0 turnovers or give me death for Kizer.
Like I think I've been a little unrealistic and it was based off that Pittsburgh game, right? Like
right.
The Pittsburgh game, he had, I think, 220 yards, and he had a TD rushing, a TD passing. So I just want to see him be a little more consistent and not have as many turnovers. So if that means 150 yards, hopefully that means that we're running the ball a lot more, which is fine.
Yeah.
Which is fine. So that would be obviously my first one. You want to go?
My first one is... I think I chose him maybe last week, but Jamie Collins.
David Njoku? Is that who you're... Oh, no, Jamie Collins. All right. I thought you said David Njoku for the 7th week straight.
I have an inside bet with him. That's why I kept saying his name a lot. But but Jamie Collins, I mean, I don't know if I chose him as a player to watch last week, but I know I said that I was excited to see the Browns defense with him returning last week. And he's a player to watch for me this week because against the Texans, I mean, he kind of looks sluggish in some plays. I don't know if that was like a mental, like he was a little slow in reading where the ball carrier was going, but there were some plays where guys running up the sideline and he just kind of looked like he was in half motion. So I'm interested in watching him this week and seeing how he developed, because he's a great athlete. He is one of the best players on the Browns defense, and he just didn't really have it or show it last week.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he didn't seem to make any difference. Like, we know how much of an athlete he is, and I mean, Greg Williams has even gone on record of saying that he's the best linebacker that Greg Williams has ever coached, and he's coached a lot of top 10 defenses. So,
right. A lot of bounty defenses.
Yeah, Scott Fujita. Shout out Scott Fujita. Anyway, that's a really good one because I think he can be. He's probably one of the few veterans on the team.
Right.
He can, if he's fired up and he can be making a difference. I think a lot of our young guys would feed off of that.
I think so.
My another one I would say would probably be Brian Body Calhoun. I was a little disappointed last week to see him miss a sack. I think it was on. It might have been a 3rd and goal that he missed a sack and Deshaun Watson slipped away. I know it was kind of a pivotal play that Deshaun Watson made something happen, but You know, we basically have three corners,
right.
and Jason McCourty at his age, you know, he's playing so solid, like way more solid than I think we originally thought. But I think we need to see it from someone else, and I would love to see Body Calhoun pick it up.
That'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and make maybe a game changing. But I think he had like 5 picks last year.
Wow.
So if he could get that going again, our secondary needs some work.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, they got a boost of confidence with McCourty's pick 6 last week, but they just, I mean, I'm glad that Tennessee doesn't have a, top 10 NFL wide receiver, because our secondary just needs a break from guys like that. I mean,
do you know if Corey Davis is playing this year or this week?
I don't
from Western
know.
Michigan, your Mac,
I know. Yeah,
the Stallions.
I know of him. I think he like broke basically every single MAC receiving record that was that's out there. But I don't know if he's playing or not. Couldn't tell you. But to round this out, while you're looking that up, I don't have a second player to watch. But I'm going with Greg Williams as my coach to watch. I want to see how many times I have to get the measuring tape out to see how many inches on my screen or how many feet on my screen Jabril Peppers is off the line of scrimmage. I think a couple times last week he was 8 feet off the screen and my TV is only 2 feet wide. So... But there were a couple replays where he was actually, I saw Jabril, I had to like double take at the TV where I saw Jabril Peppers get out of a pile that was near the line of scrimmage. And I kind of questioned, I was like, should I call Greg Williams and ask him, like, did Jabril not read the play right? Like, was he not, I thought he was supposed to be, he's like those, I don't know what the fuck position it is in soccer, where the guys that can't come further than a certain point. He's like Peppers and the safeties can't come further than like 20 yards closer to the line of scrimmage.
I would be so pumped. I would be so pumped up if Jabril Peppers had a big game, like a big game-changing, noticeable play, whether it be a sack. Like say what you – I know I hate the fact how deep he plays too. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I think he slowly with every week is having a few more plays closer to the line of scrimmage.
I agree. And he's not as big as some, because a lot of what NFL teams are doing and smart NFL teams seem to be doing is drafting a college safety and kind of bulking him up to play like a nickel linebacker, kind of that role that can not only tackle running backs really well, but be able to cover tight ends better than any linebacker could. And he's more in between a safety. He's closer to a safety on that spectrum than a linebacker, but I still think he needs to be up there roaming around. He needs to be I want to see him involved in every single play, not just dropping back and is like the Fulmer touchdown. It's like, oh, I'm glad to see that this plan is really working out well to stop the deep ball.
Yeah, Greg Williams claims that that's why Peppers plays so deep. Well, I think after 6 games of basically giving up big plays, I think it's time that we give the other side a shot. If he plays close to the line of scrimmage and we give up big play after big play after big play, okay, then I'll say, you know what, Greg, props to you.
Right.
Then let's keep him back there. But I think at this point, anything you think is working is probably not.
No.
So give it a shot. The opposite end.
Yeah, I know. But have you figured out if Corey Davis is playing yet or not?
He is questionable.
Okay. So we'll see. I mean, he's obviously not as great a wide receiver as the Browns have had to face, as Antonio Brown or DeAndre Hopkins, but he's still a threat. He's a speedy guy, so we'll see. But
you know how they say you're only as good as your weakest link?
Yes.
DeAndre Hopkins didn't kill us. It was like the secondary matchup. I don't know who was on DeAndre Hopkins, if it was McCourty or Jamar Taylor.
I think it was mostly McCourty.
Yeah, like he didn't kill us. It was, that deep ball to Will Fuller, and it was Griffin, their tight end. The tight end, we've talked about that in weeks past. Like the tight end is always wide open. I mean, 3rd and 12, no doubt. We'll get that easy. Just dunk it over the middle of the tight end.
Yeah,
so
dunk it in that 20-yard spot where there's no safeties waiting there because they're 6 yards deep from there.
Yeah, so anyway, with all that said, I'm still excited. I'm still excited because, if you take the best parts away from the last 6 games, we can put together a game where we only lose by 2 or 3 points.
Yeah.
We won't win.
Yeah, we know.
If we take our best moments from the last 6 games, we won't win. I don't want to be misunderstood in that regard. But we could keep it close if we actually put together a game where we don't give up 21 points in the first quarter and a half.
Right.
So,
and like you said before, any kind of win outlook. So Michael's iPad took a crap on him right as we were about to make our picks. And so we know we have the Titans coming into Cleveland this week. And the line is the Titans are favored by 6.5 points, so basically a touchdown, So Michael has the Titans covering. He's calling the score out as 31-24. So the Browns, fairly high-scoring game. Hopefully, none of those Titan points are off of any Browns turnovers. I also see the Titans covering. I don't think it's going to be as close as Michael thinks it is. I think it's probably a double-digit win for the Titans, especially if Mariota is back and ready to roll in that offense. So I would say, the Titans covering. I put the final score. I think our defense plays pretty well, but it's going to be in maybe like 21-10. Something like that. So we move the ball well, have some good drives and things of that sort, but we just can't really get over a hump where we come close to beating the Titans. So thanks everyone for listening this week. We'll be back next week with all types of Cleveland coverage. We've got the Cavs rolling back around, so we'll be talking about them more as the season goes on. And as always, we have the Browns, crawling through, I guess is a better word, this season now. So subscribe on iTunes. Make sure to leave a comment and rate us. It really helps us out in the search rankings, and like us on Facebook. We're basically everywhere with the Here We Go Cleveland handle. So, all right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks. This week, 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 thanks.